So thank you very much, everybody, for attending the last of our seminar series. So we've had 3 seminars on Xero, plus we've done a couple with relation to COVID, which is where this all sort of started out. And then we had the seminar from the financial planning perspective and also income tax planning as well. So today's session is going to be roughly 45 minutes. So it's going to keep it to that hour session if we can. It's just going to show you some advanced tips from Xero that you might not always see, or just hopefully give everyone a couple of little hints and tips in Xero, which we find that are useful and which can help you out with running your business. So the things that we're going to include today are a bit of reporting, just a couple of cool reports we've seen, the budgeting tool within reporting as well, some coding tips and tricks that I didn't cover last time. Just a quick one on STP year-end finalisation as well. I think we may, don't quite know this, we might do a quick video and send it around the first week of July about STP as well. And then just some contacts, invoice and email settings to wind up the session. So it'll be pretty succinct. Take some notes or watch the video again, but it's just going to point you to some areas where this might help you out. And if you achieve these things, it's going to make your Xero file look a lot cleaner, a lot crisper, and a lot more professional as well. So I'm going to be doing the Xero file in the demo company. That's just for privacy purposes. So once again, with a demo company, not everything is as it would be for a normal Xero file. So just keep that in the back of your mind when I say, hey, we can't do this because we're in demo company rather than a paid file from there. Any other housekeeping matters that we have? There'll be a survey at the end of the webinar. We'd just like you to take a couple of minutes to fill out the survey and let us know what you think of the session. Let us know what you think about all of our series as well. And we're going to try and make the webinar as interactive as we possibly can. So please raise your hand or speak up and ask a question, or if there's something you want more information on, please let me know. And there's also a chat box as well on the right hand side. So you're also able to just type a chat comment or question in there, and I'll answer it as we go as much as we can. I can't quite see the chat box when I've got screen shared, so one of the other people might be able to help me out as well. And from there, this is, as I said, the last in our series. So we will start to try and do some every couple of months or every month on different topics. I know we've got a good one coming up that we haven't quite finalised yet, but if we can ask you to please keep watching these and learning from our little tips and tricks, that'd be also awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. We'll see how this goes into Xero. Can you see demo company? Donna, I've just got you on the thing. Yep, you can see demo company. Cool. Okay, so first thing that I wanted to go through in Xero was reporting. So last time we covered off a fair bit of the overall structure of Xero and how Xero works, but the reporting in Xero is actually really quite good and powerful, and the most flexible reporting that we've seen amongst accounting packages. So we go into accounting, and there's reports. So there's a couple of things here that we can do first, and I'm sorry if I have covered it previously, but you can star the reports with which you wish to appear on your start screen here. Okay, so me being the accounting geek that I am, I have activity summary, age payable, age receivables, balance sheet, and profit and loss as my starred reports. That's the ones that I want to see. But if you're looking at your Xero file and you see a couple of reports saying like, I'm never going to use that, what you can do is come into here and just unstar these ones as you go, which is quite handy from there. But what we can do within Xero is if we select profit and loss, new, bearing in mind we're a demo company, so I'll do this financial year and hopefully we find some data. Got a little bit of data here for demo company. So we got sales, purchases, interest income, and a range of expenses as well. What we're able to do, we can compare with different periods. So we won't have any data across, but what this does, it gives us a quick snapshot, and I love to see this with all my clients. Let's compare 2020 to 2019 to 2018, okay? Very handy, especially when it comes to showing people cattle sales, showing people what their income was for certain periods. What we're able to do then, we can hit here and hit Save As, and we can, I'll just move my little thing here along, it's getting away. We can go Save As, and we can go Custom. What that does, if we hit Profit and Loss, I can make that the default report that every time I open up the file, this is the profit and loss report I see, okay? And we can also have multiple layouts as well. So we don't necessarily need to have this layout, but we can have multiple layouts in which we choose. We can also edit our layout on the left-hand side here as well. If we go into settings, we can then do it by a cash or accruals basis if we wish to. So what that means essentially is if you want to know what's happened as far as what income you've received from sales or what you've actually physically paid out in purchases or expenses, we can click the cash button rather than the accruals button. So it just goes off your bank account, what you've spent and what you've received. Whereas accruals takes also into account the movement in invoices between the periods as well. On top of that, there's this little filter button here. What that allows us to do is we can filter via specified job or regions. So we're actually in Xero able to have different tracking categories for different businesses, for different departments, and so on and so forth. So we are able to apply it at this level as well. So it is quite handy also. So once we get into here, and this can be done over the balance sheet as well as the profit and loss, except for the part where in balance sheet we don't usually have location categories. But if I go into edit layout, please be good to me. I can also choose to move. For example, you might want other income right down at the bottom. We can do that as well. We can also group expenses in our profit and loss. So it's very flexible also. I'll just move this bar over here. We're able to group this. Say if we want to group bank fees, we can group bank fees. We can call it name bank fees. Done. Oops. And then we're able to move other lines in there as well. Obviously, we wouldn't do that from there. One invalid formula. I will get this out before we do that. So if you want to total that, done back. Oh. I'll hit delete on that, and then we'll go from there. Doesn't like me at all. I'll leave that. So we're able to easily customize our profit and loss report based on how we want to see things and what we want to view from there. So that's the new profit and loss report. There's also an older profit and loss report, which does give you a little bit more detail in some instances, and it's down the bottom here. It also gives you some different defaults, which are very easy. So for example, we can compare June to the previous 3 months. And it comes up like so. We can show totals, year to date, date ranges, and then we also have the option to do filters based on east side, north side, etc. from there. So it's pretty much the same report, just in a different format as well. One report which is really handy for small businesses, and I do encourage everybody to have a look at this report for your own business if you've got a Xero file, is the business snapshot. It's a new one that's come out from Xero. The demo company doesn't give me a hell of a lot of joy with it, but it does give you an idea of what can happen in your business. Okay, so it has profit and loss on the left-hand side, has income over the period. Now, if you're in your company, it would have a full range. Expenses, it lists out the largest operating expenses that you have here. Some financial position and cash balances, average time to get paid, and average time to pay your suppliers as well. So it gives you an overall view of the business that you have and how it's going compared to previous years. Now, as it says it's in pilot, it is going to change, but please do have a look at it on your own Xero file to see how your business is going in comparison to the previous year. One other thing that I've been encouraging most of my clients to do is to set up a budget. Now, yeah, budgeting, whoa, we're excited over budgeting, but it's really quite handy to get into the habit of each year sitting down and plan out your future year and get some sort of budget happening whereby we can yardstick how we're going based off current year's results and what we think is going to happen in the future. The Xero budgeting tool is really quite simple. So if I was just to go overall budget for the year, from June 2020, we can start it, which is this June. We're able to budget out for the next 12 months by inputting figures in that are similar to previous years, previous periods. We can do 3 months actuals, 6 months. So what that does, if we click wide view, it gives us a better view. But we can look at what our past history is and input it into our future budget. You can also use formulas as well to do it. So for example, I might say, well, advertising this year is going to be $500 per month. If I click on the little green arrow and I apply the fixed amount each month, then my budget goes all the way through for that period. I'm also able to export this into an Excel document. This could be quite scary where it ends up, but we'll see how we go. Just drag it over once it comes up. So we can export it into an Excel document. You can manipulate these figures in Excel, save it, and then re-import it back into Xero as well. So if you love using Excel, you can use your budget tool like that. So we are encouraging most people to give it a go. It's all part of the Xero package, and it does help you out with your reporting and looking at where you've gone and how things are going from there. We do have budget reports. So there's a budget and put it into here. So if we go into budget variance, and this is what we do for our own business. So our accounts lady gives us a budget report, which gives us an actual, a budget, and a variance. Now, demo company, no actuals are in June yet, but we've got year-to-date actual, year-to-date budget, and a variance for year-to-date as well, with a variance percentage. So having a budget and being able to get these reports out can be really quite handy, just to see how you're pegging in the current year based on what you thought you were going to do. The other thing that you can do with regards to chasing up people for invoices through reporting, we can do many different types of customer invoice report based off income by contact. I love this report because what it shows me to my clients, effectively, it groups the income by customer for a certain period. So it can be for the June period, it can be for 12 months. So essentially what you can do is you can run a report through Xero, which shows exactly what customers spent how much money with you throughout the period, if you do invoicing in Xero. Really quite handy. It's customizable as well, so you can export it out to Xero and have a bit, export it out to Excel and have a bit of a muck around with it. But I do like using this report to show clients exactly where their income is coming from and how exposed they are to one client. Quick example here is that in the 2020 year for my demo company, 20% of my income has come from one client. Very easy to pinpoint that. And a lot of people don't understand that unless you physically go through your numbers and have a look at it. Just go back here. This also highlights the importance of making sure your contacts are right. Because if we can run things like income by contact, customer invoice reports, which are very handy as well, what that allows us to do, if we customize this to the right date, customer number, it can bring up all the invoices for a customer in one report, or all invoices for all customers in one report if we wish to do that as well. We can do it by status, and we can do it by invoice number, by amount, by paid date, due date, expected date. So there is a lot that we can do, provided we have all the data in there correctly. What that does is leads me on to the next part that I was going to show, which we really do strongly recommend people have a look at in their Xero file and clean up as much as you can, which is contacts. I'll just grab some water while. When we talk to clients, I'd probably say half or more don't keep a very clean contact list. And having your contact list in Xero clean and also accurate, especially if you're running a small business, can really help you out as far as being able to send data to the client or send invoices or obtain data that will allow you to do certain reporting and certain analysis on your business. Plus, it also streamlines exactly how much contacts you have, and it streamlines the coding that you do as well from there. For example, and I'll use Bayside Club here. This contact has a fair bit of data in it compared to other contacts. What we're able to see just by clicking on it is a whole lot of details about that customer's activity with us. For example, invoices awaiting payment, so a list of all the invoices that are due. Bills that are awaiting payment. So if you can imagine you're on a phone to a client, if you quickly type in contacts and type in their name, you're able to quickly look up and also then click into the view, the bills which are owing or which are owed to a client. Also gives you a very detailed audit trail as to what's happened throughout the period. So you'll see that invoices have been approved, created and edited, all by myself in this case. But if you can imagine a very long list of transactions that happen for one client, it gives you a good overview of what they've been up to. What I also then recommend is you make sure their contact details are accurate, especially their email address, and phone number. Reason being, if you've got a good email address in here, you're able to email from Xero invoice reminders and also invoice remittance notices if they're a supplier as well. So we are able to do a lot of emailing from Xero, provided that their contact details are accurate. So what we're encouraging all clients to do, especially if you've got a bit of downtime, is go through that contacts list. I'll click back onto here. If I go to edit, what we're also able to do in the contacts list, obviously we can update email addresses, phone numbers, etc., etc. If a client only purchases one product from you guys, or if, for example, and I'll use my good friends at City Printing Works, if we had a card called City Printing Works, we would know that we only purchase, default tax inclusive, default account, printing and stationery. So if you set up a contact and the only thing that you purchase from them is printing and stationery, you can set that up as a default. That way, when you type in City Printing Works as an invoice, it can all be pre-filled except for the dollar amounts. So it becomes very handy from that point of view. You're also able to add in here a credit limit for a client. So what that does, it will automatically prompt you once their amount payable has gone over a certain amount. So it's a credit limit on their account, which is really quite handy if you're doing multiple invoices for a client on a regular basis and all of a sudden it hits 20,000, which is what their approved credit limit is for you. Xero will prompt you and it won't let you enter in another invoice until you either up the credit limit or something's paid from there. Sales discount, if you have a default discount. Also, we have invoice themes as well, and I'll go through how we can change invoice themes for different different clients or different parts of your business. Also has defaults here for invoices due and bills due. So, for example, it might be a special client and it might be 7 days from after the date of invoice. So that will automatically default that then for all invoices that occur. This is a pretty cool function, which is the Xero network key. So what the Xero network key does is if your client or your supplier also has a Xero file and has a Xero network key, you're able to input that Xero network key into here. And when you send the client an invoice, it can be sent directly into their Xero file. So that can work especially well if you have two files or two companies and you're invoicing from one company to another. That way it's pretty accurate. The other way it can work is if you consistently deal with somebody that you know, you can send them the invoices and it will appear in their Xero file as a bill payable straight away, which is pretty handy. Also helps out from an efficiency point of view as well. Just before we finish with contacts, what we do find, and I'll use the ATO as an example, just get back out into here, but yeah, definitely look to clean up your contacts list as much as you can. What happens with some clients is that they have people that enter the details of a supplier in, and it becomes more than one supplier. So, for example, Australian Taxation Office can be coded in many different ways: ATO, Tax Office, Australian Tax Office, other names which we won't mention, but some people think it's funny. So what we can do essentially is by cleaning up your file, you can merge two contacts into one. So here I've got Bank and Bank West. It's obviously an error because there's no contact called just Bank. It's obviously Bank West, but what's happened is someone's entered in Bank and hit Tab without typing in the full details of Bank West. So what we're able to do is we're able to click Options and Merge. What that does is we can move those two contacts, Bank and Bank West, into a contact called Bankrock Station. If we do that, we hit Tab, we hit Tick. I understand the transaction histories for all selected contacts will be stored together in Bankrock Station. So what happens with that is the previous invoices, or the previous bills, or the previous payments from those other two contacts will be joined together with the contact details and the contact invoices and suppliers for Bankrock Station. So if you click Merge, we have Bankrock Station. So the two have gone. If there's one in here like Asgard, for example, which we've never used before, we can simply just archive. Archive Asgard. It's gone. It's gone to the archive bin. If you wanted to do a mail merge or a mail out of some sort, or if you simply wanted to muck around with the data in the contacts list for your own business, as far as doing some analysis on your clients and things like that, you can export this contacts list into an Excel file as well, which is really quite handy. You're also able to import contacts, which is what we do when we merge your file over from a different accounting package. We can import your contacts via an Excel file. What I suggest you don't do is export this out and then re-import it, because it could double up the contact, which isn't really nice. We can also send statements from here as well. So you can click Send Statements and we can send out the statements. Now this statements, what I mean by statements is a statement of everything that is owed to you, to the client, and it can go via email, or you can print it out and send out your invoice statement that way as well. We can do that multiple different locations, but it's handy from here. You can click All, or we can just say, all right, DISR, we'll send them a statement. Click Email, accounts@disr.gov. So it's the email we have on. It's from Peter Schonen, reply to Peter Schonen. Now I'll go into email settings in a minute and how we can change that to a general canal setting. We can choose our email template here as well. We can change the subject, and we can change the branding also, but it just gives you a default here. I'll go through in a minute where we can change the default templates for these. So you might want to send out something a little bit different compared to the Xero standard statement template as well. You can also get you to select your own copy and send it to yourself. Cool. There's a couple of they're called smart lists. So what it does, it just lets you quickly click on this. It's a smart list. What it means is that there's an outstanding invoice greater than 30 days. It'll give you a list here. What you're able to do is you can click on this. You can go options. We can export it to a CSV file if we want to. We can come up to here. We can save the search. So you might not want it 30 days. You might want it 60 days or 80 days. But what you can do from there is you can click on the contact and send them an email and send them a statement. Oops, come back here. Or you're also able to sort them by their name as well. So it's just a quick list to show, hey, what clients are outstanding more than 30 days by contact. Have purchased an item. So if you want to go through and do a mail out to all your clients that have purchased an item in the last forever, or you can go in the last 2 years or the last 6 months, we can save the search. We can run it to start with, and it will list out all the clients that have purchased an item in the last 6 months. And by doing that, what you can do then is you can export that into a mail merge and send out special catalogs or a special offer or what have you for returning clients. So I have had clients that have done that with some success, which is really quite good. Before I jump off contacts, I might just take a breather. Has anybody got any questions, or I'll just get the screen back here? Any questions at all?
Yeah, I just had a question, Peter.
Yep.
Just going back to where you put in the Xero network key. So say in the case where one client has 3 entities.
Yep.
And you may say have a company that you have dividends being paid to a partnership. In that case, can you put in the partnership's Xero network key? Because we're going to have 3 different files.
Yep, only for invoices, Donna. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it'll only work through invoices, not through payments, from my understanding.
No, that's right.
Yeah, but it'll come through your bank feed, which is where it'll come through. But yeah, it'll only be for invoices. So the rationale behind it is that you can, I do you up an invoice, I know your key, I just dump it straight into your Xero file. And when you come to pay bills, you check it, and it's all good, ready to go.
So it sits in the Xero file, not in HubDocs?
In Xero, that one.
In Xero, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're right. Quickly touch on STP year end. We're going to have a few questions on this coming up, especially as STP nears. But to finalise your STP year end, there's a couple of things that you need to do before you hit the finalise button. So the actual process for STP is very simple. But there's a couple of accounts which are always handy to have a look at, just to make sure that the process is done correctly. So if what happens with payroll, essentially, if I go to the balance sheet in here, I'll go to 30th of June 2020. Didn't work. I need to apply first. Hang on. No? Okay. there's an account here called wages payable payroll. Okay, so how Xero works essentially is that when you do payroll through Xero, it posts the net payment that you are to make into an account called wages payable payroll. And I'll just open that up now. So here we have a wages payable transaction for 1613, which has come through via a payroll expense journal through the payroll account. And then when you pay your payroll at that same date, you code it to 804 wages payable. So effectively what should happen at the end of the year is this account, 804 wages payable, doesn't necessarily have to be that number, but your wages payable account in Xero must equal 0 before you proceed with single touch payroll finalisation. If not, what it means is that what you've posted in payroll is different to what you've paid your employees. Either that or you haven't coded all of the expense payments for paying the wages, or all of the wages payments, you haven't paid that into the wages payable account. So the first step is to make sure that wages payable equals 0. The second step is to make sure that if you go to accounting reports, I use this report. Now the girls here at work might use a few different reports, but I like the payroll employee summary report. If we go for this financial year, we need to make sure that the total of the earnings less any deductions, which are deductions off your gross pay, equals the gross payments that are on your business activity statement. We also need to make sure that the tax amount here, the total tax, is equal to the sum of the total tax amounts which you've paid on your BAS. So that's the second step which needs to happen to ensure that you can lodge your single touch payroll. If there is an error, that's okay. We can do an unscheduled pay run and fix it up. So to do that, and for example, what it might be is you might have paid somebody $500 extra on top of what the payroll had already stated. So we can go into pay employees for the period. In this case, we can go to add pay run. And we can do what's called an unscheduled pay run for the weekly calendar, current financial year for the 14th of May. So it's possible to go back. You can't actually go back and edit a previous pay run once it's been posted and sent to single touch payroll. But what you can do is go and do an adjusting pay run, file it, send the employee the adjusting pay slip, and also post that adjustment to single touch payroll as well. And that way, what's going to happen is by the time you make these adjustments, it'll all come back to the wages payable account being 0. The total on your BAS is equal to the totaling on your employee report. And then we're able to lodge STP via finalisation. So it's just payrolls, employees, end of year report, STP finalisation. Now I can't go the full way, but what we can do is we can click this and we click this button here, finalise and submit to ATO. You'll have to authorise it and then submit to the ATO from there. So I'm not going to do that on the demo company. Once you've done that, then your STP for the financial year has been completed. That will get pushed to the ATO, and that's when you see it pre-fill into employees' MyGov accounts or their ATO portal accounts, and then they can do their tax from there. So it's vitally important that this is done close to the end of financial year. And I think, Helen, sorry, Helen, I will interrupt. I think you've got until the 10th or the 14th of July to lodge that final STP return. Is that correct? You just have to unmute while you're there. Is that about right? 10th or 14th?
You got me on that one, Pete. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look it up.
Oh, okay. I think it's the 10th or the 14th. So it's around that time that you have to do this step by. So does any of the other Canars crew know the exact date at all? If you're on, yell out. But it's around that date. So I think Helen's probably Googling it for me now. So, but yeah, you do need to make sure it's not just a set and forget thing whereby you do the pays and that's it. There is this extra step for single touch payroll.
I think, Pete, it's the 14 days, but if you've got 19 or fewer, I think there's a little bit of an extension. I think it's the 31st of July.
Okay, so 14 days, unless it's 19 or fewer employees and it's the 31st. But the quicker that you do it, the quicker it goes onto the employees' MyGov accounts and also onto the tax portal report, which is what we do here at Canars, which means they'll stop bugging you, essentially, which is always pretty cool. Any questions on that at all from anybody? So just making you aware that there's that extra step there that we have to do. I will stop the share for a second just to check. No, we're all good. Cool. Alrighty. The last bit I want to do is just a couple of things that we see with regards to coding and coding from the bank account. Sorry, I'll screen share. You can see my screen, Helen? Yep, cool, thank you. Okay, so one question that we get asked quite a fair bit is, once I've reconciled it, the transaction, is it gone for good? Can I get it back? The answer is yes, you can get it back. So what we can do, there's these little 3 buttons on the side here of the business savings account. If I click on these buttons, we have these options here. But the one that you're looking for is account transactions. If we click on this transaction, we can click options, remove and redo. What that allows you to do, we go back to the dashboard. This one in particular is gone. Let me do another one here. Right. Here we go. Dick Smith. Remove. For that payment, Dick Smith will then appear back up in the coding amount here, which will come down here to Dick Smith, and we're able to recode it from there. Okay, so we're also able to access it from manage account. So for example, I'll go back to a transaction which happened on the 23rd of February, Victoria Property Agency. And you might say, so there's 2 things you can do. You can edit it. From editing from here, you can change the date, the tax inclusive amount, the office rent, the duration, sorry, the unit amount, price, and account. And then we can just update it. Or if you want it to go back on the original screen, because the reason why you might want it to go back on the original screen is you might want to supply it against an invoice. Sorry, not supply it, apply it against an invoice. So if we go back to here, it comes up the top. We can then match this against a supplier invoice. So that's the first step. So if you've coded it and you're like, oops, I want to get it back on the front screen, into account transactions, remove and redo, bring it back up to the front screen. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do which some clients find a little bit quirky with regards to how you code. The first one is if you overpay an account. So, for example, it's $1,650 and the invoice is for Bayside Wholesale for $840. So the account is overpaid. So to do that, we go to new transaction. we can go to a spend money, and we can spend that as an overpayment. So what that then does, it applies the invoice and then it overpays the balance from there. Does that make sense? So we've got $840 here, and we have an overpayment amount as well. The other thing that we can do, and I'll tick this off here, if we wanted to prepay something, we can choose to do that by going new transaction, spend money, and we can prepay. So how that might come into account is, for example, at the end of the financial year, you may not have an invoice, but you've put $3,000 into an expense account for prepayment of accounting fees. Let's just, for example, say. So you can pay that to Canars. You can enter as a prepayment. You'll be in credit with us, and the expense will be recorded in here as a prepayment. So we hit cancel on that. We can also split transactions. What that means is if we go here, we can hit split. What split transactions enables you to do is part pay an account. So I can't do it on that one, but I'll do it on a larger sum. So this one here. So for example, it's Smart Agency for 2,500. If we click on the transaction and we'll click out of that one, and we'll click split, we can part pay the $1,650 as well. So there's a lot of options you can do in the matching process, whereby it's not necessarily very clean with paying the same amount as what the invoice is, or part paying and things like that. Okay, so the three there is the overpayment. So if you have overpaid an account, new transaction, overpayments, prepayments, and then splitting from that point of view also. Another thing that we have that we can choose to do is bank rules. And I know we've been through bank rules previously, but if you regularly transfer money from one account to another, for example, $5,000 on a regular basis, or in this case, I'll use $4,500, we can create a bank rule. At the top, spend money rule, receive money rule. So if somebody regularly pays you money also into the account, you can hit a receive money rule. So for example, you receive $100 into the account from somebody every week. We can create a rule which says if I receive $100, it goes into these bank accounts. We can also do a transfer money rule. It's essentially the same. So if we say description contains this, we don't need to worry about that. We can say it's a create a transfer, choose during the bank reconciliation. No need to worry about a region, and we target the bank account to go to. Click Smart Agency, then off we go. Business savings account. So what that does, it essentially tells us that it's going to go the account being reconciled and the business savings account, and we click save. What will pop up then, I hope, is a rule. So every time we transfer $4,500, a rule is going to come up which will select a transfer to the business savings account. What will happen then in the business savings account, it was already come pre-coded because we've coded it here, and we just need to click OK in that account as well. I think I've gone through the difference between remove and redo and edit. So remove and redo, essentially you can bring it back on the front screen. If you edit it, it comes back onto this main screen as well, which is quite handy from there. One thing which I wanted to show everybody, that we have the ability as an accountant, if, for example, you have a lot of transactions which you've coded into the wrong account, say 20 or 30 transactions, either via a bank rule or via, you want to move something from one account to another. We're able to do something called a find and recode, and this is for advisors only. So it's something that if you want to do it, let one of us know, and we can either do it, which is a very quick thing to do, or we can have you added on as an advisor for this purpose. So what we can do essentially is find and recode. It's really quite cool. can find a transaction or any transactions, and I can move them from an account to an account. So this is what we do. Just put an account here. So if it's printing and stationery, for example, these 5 transactions come up in printing and stationery. And you might say, well, there might be 20 or 30 of them. What we can do is we can say the account is printing and stationery. We can select these amounts here, or these accounts here, and we can recode this to a different account, and I might call it office expenses. We don't want to recode the tax rate. We don't want to change the contact. But if we hit review and confirm, then we've actually moved it from one account to another very quickly rather than editing it and moving the account and so on and so forth. So if you have done a big boo-boo, 20 or 30 transactions in the wrong account or something like that, before you go and click each individual transaction and move it, it might be best to try and find another way via find and recode, and that might work as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Last bit I wanted to go through was just some settings that can change with Xero, which are really quite handy if you're using Xero to the fullest with regards to invoicing and also emailing. So I'll do email settings first because that sort of flows into invoicing as well. So if I go here into the drop-down menu box, we can go to settings, email settings. This is really, there's a couple of things that I really like to do from here. One is when I'm emailing something out of Xero, the default is that it is always going to be the user that is logged in. So for example, if I hit the button and a client gets an invoice reminder, it's going to come from Peter Schonen. Well, that's not exactly great because I'm not the accounts guy or the accounts lady. I'm just the one sending you the invoice. So what you can do is we can click edit on this and we can add another email address to reply to and also from where it's come from. So for example, I might say canars@canars.com. The email name is canars@canars.com. Emails sent from this organization will use this name and email address. And we say yes. So what we can do is by default, once it's approved by the email account holder, so what will happen from here is that canars@canars.com will get an email. They have to click approve to verify the email. We can click on this button here and they can be the default email sender rather than yourself who's the logged in user. So it's quite good when you're getting emails from accounts@canars.com rather than from Peter Schonen or Helen Warnock or what have you. So that's something just to keep in the back of your mind if you're sending statements or emails out of Xero. The second one is templates. So if we go edit here, so the statements that you send from Xero, you can click send statements as I showed you from contacts, or you can do it from invoices as well. So through here, we can send our statements from here. So what it does allow us is we can edit this template to be very personable. So instead of saying, hi Pete, here's your statement, thanks, we can come up with some very creative language or some very positive language. Hi, here's your statement. Please attend to payment. We understand that you might be busy, etc., but please attend to payment. There's a whole lot of things that you can write here. Then you can also write a few messages underneath it as well. Prompt payment will be greatly appreciated, etc., So we can customize all emails which are sent out. What we can also do is what's called a placeholder. So we say hi contact name, or we can say hi first name, last name. Here's your statement date range, and we can put in here with a balance of, and then we can click statement balance, and it will automatically pull in the statement balance. So there's a lot of things that we can customize here. Date range, statement balance, contact name, the balance of the symbol, and the currency balance. And we can click save, and that's a personalized statement, email statement template that can go from there. Sales invoice, we might have one with overdue payment reminder, or we can click on the default. So what that might say is, here's the invoice, it's due, it's overdue for payment, please make prompt payment, etc., etc. So all of your templates are customizable and can be customizable to how you want it. And then you can add additional ones if you wish to as well, which you can use at any time from there. So I do encourage everybody to check their email settings because it can be quite handy from that point of view. The other thing is invoice settings. I love helping people get their invoice settings right. So what that means is that it's nice and easy for people to type in invoices very quickly. So imagine if you've got 10 or 15 invoices from your tradie husband who's been out doing odd jobs and air conditioning jobs, etc., and you're keying them all in very quickly. You want the process in Xero to be as efficient as it possibly can. To do that, we have default settings, which is in here. So once again, settings, organizational settings, invoice settings, default settings. What you can do is you can set payment terms, default payment terms. So that just allows you to ensure that sales invoices are always 7 days from date after the invoice. Okay, very easily we can put that in here and away we go. We can also have quotes and the quote expiry date or bills as well. We're also able to, if you want to change your invoice prefixes or your invoice name, so instead of ORC, we might want to say Canard or KEN with the next number being 1047. We can always skip the numbers and things like that as well. We hit save. Let's see how we go. Yep. From here, we can also do invoice reminders. So I'll just click on this. So we can automatically email customers when an invoice is 7 days overdue, 14 days overdue, 21 days overdue, etc., etc. And we can edit the message, which is really quite handy. Thanks for working with your bill was due on this date. If you've already paid it, ignore it, etc., etc. So they're default messaging, but we can change it to suit how we do. And we also have send replies to petershon@canars.com at the moment, but we can change that in our email settings to be canars@canars.com or so on. Make sure when you do this one, don't send reminders for remainders of amounts on an invoice under $1, $5, $10. It's nothing more embarrassing than sending a statement for 52 cents. So make sure you come to a business decision whereby you don't send statements out if the amount is under X number of dollars. That might depend on what sort of transactions that you have, but if somebody pays you 50 cents less and it's on your debtor's ledger, the last thing you want to do is send them an invoice for 50 cents. The other thing that I wanted to quickly mention for people that love to customize invoices and have very colorful invoice templates and so on and so forth, what you can do is you can download your own invoice set. It comes in a zip file. It's a docx file. I'll do a invoice to start with. It's just coming up on the other screen so I can move it across. But what you're able to do is fully customize the invoice and then re-upload it into Xero. So this is orange invoice. They've got pictures of oranges. Yay, looks pretty cool. But from here, you can add a whole lot of messaging down the bottom. You can put in logos down the bottom, logos at the top if you've got specific logos, and then re-upload it. I'll grab that back into Xero. And that can be done for invoices, credit notes, standards, purchase orders, or quotes. And that's just done via the download link down here. Once you're done, you can upload it and it comes straight back into Xero. If you're using just the standard defaults, we can always go into here and click edit. That does give you a fairly good bit of detail as to how you might want to change the invoices with payment terms, quotes, etc. down the bottom. So the standard one's good, but if you really want to make your invoice look awesome, go for the docx and get it designed. Also on here, you can have multiple themes. For example, we've got the standard theme, which is demo code, and we've got special project, which is oranges. So I'll just show you what that comes up like in an invoice before we finish off. The reason why I say this is you might have two divisions or two businesses, or you might have a company, but it might have design and it might have advertising, etc., etc. But what we can do is we can choose what branding we want. Now, in our contacts, we can also then choose which customer gets what branding if you want to go into that much detail. So I'll type in me. That sounds pretty cool. We have what, I'll just, what am I going to sell myself? I feel like paying sales. Notice how that comes up automatically, which is pretty cool. Discount, not today. Region. Now I'm going to choose my branding. So you'll notice I'm going to have very orange invoice this time, which is the one that's been uploaded. You'll notice how this has got Ken 1047 because I just changed my invoice number standard to Ken. And from here, if I hit this preview button, I'll click. Oh, there you go. Special projects. You'll see how it comes up with my orange there for special projects. If I change my branding, obviously we're a demo company, so it's pretty poor, but if I change it to standard, it comes up with draft invoice for demo code. So you get the drift. We can have different logos for different brandings if we want to do it that way as well. Once I hit approve, cool, I can then email this to me, to Peter, Sean, and hi, email template. So I can have the sales basic one or the sales overdue payment reminder. We'll make it basic today. Once I do this, I can include the files as attachments. Always make sure you do that. The reason why I say that is that way the invoice comes up as a PDF rather than it being a click on the link one, which is this one here. Mark as sent, and you can send yourself a copy if you wish to, or you can leave it in Xero. Click send. I'm probably going to have an email in my inbox, and we go from there. What you can also do, if you're in the business whereby you set up multiple payments or payment plans for clients, for example, I've got clients who have customers that are on retention, there is the ability to use Stripe through Xero. So Stripe is a payment gateway. You can also use PayPal or direct debit with Go Cardless as well. So if you want to go fully automatic, you can have your invoices with those selected payment services on them. So when it opens, clients have the ability to pay by PayPal, Go Cardless, or Stripe as well. I know I've covered a lot in the last hour, but I really wanted to give an overview of some of the advanced tips and tricks that we really do have for clients, just to help out with moving forward with Xero, to make it more than just an accounting program. It is a program whereby you can do anything business related, and it's really your business package if you want it to be from there. There's also the invoice reminders off button, which you can choose. For example, you might want to do that in a COVID-19 situation. You can just choose to click blanket invoice reminders off, or over the Christmas period and things like that. So there is that button there which allows you to do that as well. I might stop talking. Does anybody have any questions at the moment?
No, all happy.
Oh. Very good. All right. Well, that's me done for this evening. I think, Brent, would you be able to put the link to, I think you've already done it there. Just put the link to the Survey Monkey if anybody wants to complete our survey just to see how we went tonight. But apart from that, hopefully that gives everybody a great overview on Xero and the things that I love about Xero. I mean, yeah, along with Sarah, Angie, and Kylie in our office, we we call ourselves Xero nerds, but that's okay. I'm happy to run along with that. But if you do want a hand with anything, or you need assistance with anything Xero related, please don't hesitate to give us a call and or an email, and we can help you through these advanced stuff as well.
Thank you very much.
You're right. Do you have anything else, mate, Brent? Oh, we're all good.
No, mate, that's all. Yep.
I might just stop the recording.